Loving someone completely is the most dangerous thing a human being can do, not because love itself is dangerous, but because the moment you allow yourself to fully feel another person, to let them matter, to let them in, to build your world around their presence, you have handed them the ability to unmake you entirely. And the brain, whose only real purpose has always been your survival, knows this. It has always known this. And it will do whatever it takes to protect you from that kind of destruction, even if that means destroying the very thing that could have saved you. There is a kind of person who feels everything at a frequency most people never reach. They walk into a room and they already know the emotional temperature of everyone in it. They remember the small things, the offhand comment you made 3 months ago, the way your face changes when you're pretending to be fine, the specific silence that means something is wrong before a single word has been spoken. They love with a depth that is almost unreasonable, almost frightening. The kind of love that doesn't arrive in grand gestures, but in the accumulation of 10,000 quiet acts of attention that most people never even notice are happening. These are the people who end up alone, not because they loved too little, because they loved so much that the fear of losing it became larger than the love itself. Because at some point, the tenderness they felt stopped feeling like connection and started feeling like exposure. Like standing in the middle of an open field during a storm with nothing between them and the lightning. And so they did what anyone does when they feel that exposed. They found cover. They went quiet. They got busy. They created reasons and distances and versions of themselves that needed less, wanted less, felt less. They built the kind of space that looked like independence from the outside and felt like suffocation from the inside. And the person on the other side of all that withdrawal, the one watching someone they loved slowly become unreachable, was left holding a silence they had no way to interpret and no language to address. And this is the paradox nobody ever talks about. The deeper the love, the louder the fear. The louder the fear, the faster the exit. And from the outside it looks like betrayal. It looks like coldness. It looks like I never mattered to you. But from the inside, from the place where this person actually lives, it feels like survival. It feels like the only option left. Because somewhere along the way love stopped feeling like safety and started feeling like the most dangerous thing in the world. The person who pulled away didn't stop loving you the day they went quiet. They stopped feeling safe enough to keep showing you that they did. There is a difference. A massive, painful, life-changing difference. And until you understand that difference, you will spend your life taking personally something that was never about you at all. The saddest love stories ever written are not the ones where no one cared. They are the ones where two people cared so deeply, so completely, that the weight of it became too heavy to hold. And one of them put it down, not because it wasn't precious, but because they had never been taught how to carry something that mattered that much. Nobody showed them. Nobody told them it was okay. Nobody sat with them and said, it's safe here. You don't have to run. I'm not going anywhere. And so they ran, the way they always had, except this time the running was the thing that hurt them most. What looks like coldness from the outside, what looks like indifference, like someone simply not caring enough to stay, is not a character flaw. It is not selfishness. It is a nervous system that was damaged before the person even had the language to describe what was happening to them. A brain that learned its most important lessons about love in an environment where love was not safe and has been operating from that curriculum ever since. The amygdala does not care about your intentions. It cannot distinguish between a memory and a present moment. It cannot tell the difference between the person who hurt you 15 years ago and the person standing in front of you right now offering you something real. All it knows is the pattern. All it knows is that the last time love felt this close, something broke, and it will burn everything down before it lets that happen again. This is called a trauma response. It lives not in the mind, but in the body. In the chest that tightens when someone gets too close. In the restlessness that arrives the morning after a night that felt too right. In the sudden, overwhelming need to find something wrong because wrong means the ending is inevitable, and inevitable means you are not the one being left. You are simply the one who saw it coming. The rational mind knows better. It can name the fear. It can understand exactly what it is doing. But by the time that understanding assembles itself into a coherent thought, the amygdala has already fired. The distance is already being created. And this gap between knowing and doing is where people spend years of their lives, watching themselves destroy something they desperately wanted to keep. This is not weakness. This is neuroscience. The people most likely to develop this pattern are not the ones who were unloved. They are the ones who were loved unpredictably, whose caregivers were sometimes warm and sometimes cold, sometimes present and sometimes gone. And what a child's brain does with that inconsistency is decide that love itself is unreliable, that the only stable thing in an unstable world is needing nothing from anyone. That decision made without words, before the age of reason, becomes the operating system. It runs everything. And so they never fully arrive, present but not accessible, warm but not open, always keeping one foot outside the door, not because they do not want to stay, because staying completely feels like the most reckless thing they have ever been asked to do. Everything described until now lives in the abstract, until you see it happening in your own life. Until you recognize it not as a concept, but as a Tuesday afternoon, as a conversation you had last week, as the specific, familiar feeling of watching yourself create distance from something you were not ready to lose. There are 4 signs, and they do not arrive dramatically. They move quietly through a relationship like a slow leak, invisible until the damage is already done. The first is the disappearance of small things, not the big conversations, not the obvious withdrawal, but the random message you used to send without thinking, the good morning that was never scheduled but always arrived. These small things vanish first so gradually that neither person can identify exactly when they stopped, but their absence changes the entire temperature of a relationship. What was once effortless begins to feel like maintenance, and anything that feels like maintenance to someone whose nervous system reads closeness as threat will eventually be abandoned. The second sign is distance that looks like independence. Suddenly there is more work, more obligations, more legitimate reasons to be less available, but the timing is never random. The busyness always intensifies at exactly the moment the relationship deepens, at exactly the moment vulnerability was becoming unavoidable. That is not a coincidence. That is the exit strategy activating before the conscious mind has even decided to leave. The third sign is the search for evidence. When the fear of closeness reaches a certain threshold, the brain begins building a case. It goes looking for reasons why this will not work, for flaws that suddenly seem significant. And it finds them because it was looking, because a justified exit is so much easier to carry than an honest one. Because I realized we wanted different things sounds so much cleaner than I felt something real, and it terrified me and I did not know how to stay. The fourth sign is presence without access. They are still there, still responding, still showing up, but something has shifted in the quality of their attention. There is a glass wall now, invisible, undeniable, impossible to name without sounding paranoid. You can see them, you can almost reach them, but the version of them that used to meet you fully has already started leaving, and you feel it before you can prove it. And because you cannot prove it, you start questioning your own instincts, making yourself smaller to accommodate a space that was never about your size to begin with. You were not imagining it, you never were. The consequences of pulling away from someone who loves you, the silent, invisible, never fully spoken consequences, are some of the most lasting damage one human being can cause another without ever raising their voice or breaking a single promise. The person on the other side of your withdrawal does not receive a diagnosis. They do not get an explanation. What they receive is silence where there used to be warmth, absence where there used to be presence, a version of you that looks identical to the one they fell for but feels like a stranger wearing that person's face. And because nothing dramatic has happened, no fight, no betrayal, no moment they can point to, they have nowhere to put the pain, so they turn it inward. They begin the slow, devastating process of making your fear their fault. They replay conversations looking for the moment they said too much or needed too much. They start editing themselves in real time, becoming quieter, more careful, less willing to express anything that might accelerate the distance already growing. They shrink, consistently, incrementally, until one day you look at them and realize the person in front of you is a diminished version of the one you first loved. And every inch of that diminishing was done in the service of keeping you. That belief something is wrong with me, installed quietly, reinforced consistently, never once spoken aloud by the person who caused it, follows them into the next relationship and the one after that, into the ceiling they place on how much they allow themselves to want. It becomes part of the architecture of who they are, a load-bearing wall built from the accumulated evidence of every time they reached for someone and felt them pulling back. You will move forward carrying your pattern, and they will move forward carrying the weight of a wound they did not earn and cannot fully explain. This is not said to devastate you. It is said because you deserve to know the full truth of what this pattern costs, so you can understand with complete clarity why changing it is not optional. Because the alternative is a life spent leaving rooms you desperately wanted to stay in, and a trail of people behind you who deserved so much better than the silence you gave them. There is a moment, and it arrives differently for everyone, where the cost of running finally exceeds the cost of staying, where the accumulated weight of every relationship you left, every person you watched recede in the distance of your own making, becomes heavier than the thing you were protecting yourself from. That moment is not a breakdown. It is not dramatic. It is quiet. It arrives in the middle of an ordinary day, and it sounds like this: I am tired of leaving. That is where it begins, not with a plan, with exhaustion, with the bone-deep recognition that the running has never actually taken you anywhere, that the distance you created was never peace, it was just a different kind of pain, one you chose because it felt like control. The first thing that has to change is not behavior. It is the story that closeness is danger, the story that being fully known leads to being fully abandoned. That story is not the truth. It is a survival mechanism that outlived its usefulness. And like all things that outlived their usefulness, it has to be put down, deliberately, repeatedly, not by arguing with it, but by choosing differently in spite of it. By staying in the room when every cell in your body is screaming to leave. By saying the true thing when the safe thing is silence. By letting someone see the parts of you that have never been seen and discovering that the world does not end when they do. This is called earned security. People who began life with avoidant attachment patterns can and do develop secure attachment, not by waiting for the fear to disappear, but by accumulating evidence that contradicts it. One moment of survived vulnerability at a time. The moment you send the message instead of going quiet. The moment you say, I am pulling away right now and I do not want to be. The moment you choose the terrifying aliveness of being present over the familiar numbness of being gone. Those moments are everything you have been surviving for a long time. Surviving the kind of love that was not consistent. Surviving the kind of childhood that taught you safety was something you had to manufacture alone. Surviving every relationship that confirmed what the fear always told you, that staying completely was a risk no outcome could justify. And you are still here. That is not nothing, that is everything. But surviving is not the same as living. And the difference between the two, the specific, irreplaceable difference, is the willingness to be known, to let someone pass the walls, to stop curating the version of yourself that is presented to the world, and allow the unedited, unguarded, genuinely terrified real version to be seen by another human being. That is the only thing that heals this. Not time, not distance, not another relationship where you keep one foot outside the door. Presence, complete, uncomfortable, revolutionary presence. The person you have been, the one who loved deeply and left anyway, the one who felt everything and showed nothing, the one who stood at the edge of every good thing and found a reason to walk away. That person kept you safe when safe was all you had. But you have more now. You have the understanding of what this is and where it came from and what it has cost. You have the knowledge that fear is not the truth. You have, if nothing else, this moment, this specific, unrepeatable moment of seeing yourself clearly enough to choose differently. That is enough to begin. It has always been enough.